Hey everybody, here we are in our upstairs hallway, and welcome to our upstairs hallway again.
And our final Tuesday talk with you.
Mm-hmm.
And again, you can always go to the Bible app and follow along with us. And this session is called
Fear Not. Oh, you mean the whole thing overall?
Yes.
Well, this I think it's called Be Strong and of Good Courage.
Yes. And so we talked about having courage. We
Mm-hmm.
talked about being strong.
Mm-hmm.
And so today is about
Fear Not.
there we go.
So that's what we're talking about today. I'm going to move this a little bit, so it's like, okay, that's better. And so now it's more centered, and I'm more of a symmetrical.
You feeling better about that?
I feel more symmetrical.
Are you fearful of being not symmetrical?
I don't know if it's fearful. I think when I was growing up, I spent a lot of time playing with Lego.
Right.
And so whenever I made spaceships, though, they had to be symmetrical. So whatever was on the left side had to be on the right side.
Why? Why can't it be the opposite?
I don't know. It's...
What's the word? Unsymmetrical?
I don't know.
I think it's
asymmetrical?
asymmetrical.
Is that-
There you
is
go.
that it? Anyways, I wasn't scared of it necessarily, but there are other things that people are scared of
It's true.
that are unique to every person.
Mm-hmm.
Some people can be scared of, flying.
Yeah.
People,
Spiders.
Spiders, arachnophobia.
Mm-hmm.
People of tight spaces, right?
Uh-huh.
Claustrophobia.
Yes.
Then there are other phobias. For instance, for me, I am afraid of bees.
Yes, you are very afraid of bees.
Now, and it's not, doesn't make any sense. I'm way bigger than the bee, but I have a very vivid memory, and I've told you guys this before. I have a very vivid memory when I was a kid, 3 years old, getting stung
Yeah.
on a playground.
Well, I mean, a lot of our fears do have to do with our past experiences, right?
That's
so
true.
I was afraid. I grew up on a farm, and you had to walk from the barn to the house in the dark, and I was super afraid of doing that in the dark, and I would run so fast because my grandfather told me this crazy story.
What was the story about, dear?
It was a story of the fact that apparently there was a UFO following my grandmother home one night, and that freaked me right out for a long time. Anyways, fears, they can be so irrational and they can be silly, but they can be so powerful.
Absolutely.
And they direct us, and we can allow that to influence us, which is, we have to war against that as believers.
Yeah, and I think we have to be careful because I think there are things that there is positive fear.
Yeah, it's true.
Right?
I was reading actually this week about fear.
I remember. That's why I brought it up.
I know. Good thinking. Because how how God actually creates our emotions, right? So fear is an emotion. So that means that God actually did create fear, and there is such a thing as healthy fear. If there was I was walking too close to a cliff, being afraid that I might fall off is a healthy fear because I really should back up.
Right. It actually protects you.
Yes, and so, when we have fear, a healthy fear, a good fear, a God-given fear, it actually protects us.
Right.
And then there are Satan came into the garden, sin came, and sin actually took the fear and twisted it and made it this awful thing that, consumes us. Like, there's so much scriptures even in the Bible talking about fear.
Yeah, and so we have to be careful, and it's hard. And this is where we need a relationship with God to discern, and ask the question: should I be afraid of this? Is this a healthy fear, or is this an insecure fear? Is this coming from Satan, or is this something? And it's really hard, especially in these days of a pandemic and COVID, and being able to say, okay, what is wisdom, but what is fear?
Yes.
And I can't answer that question I know you're looking for answers for me, but I can't answer that question for you because I feel like it's different for everybody. But really, we have to be able to talk to God about these things and not just succumb to unhealthy fears, not just say to ourselves, well, here are the voices that I'm hearing from the media, here are the voices that I'm hearing from my friends, here are the voices that I'm hearing from politicians. Really the voice that we need to hear from is God.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's why we need to ask God about our fears. We need to say, okay, God, is this real? Is this me just, are you trying to protect me? Or am I being actually paralyzed?
Right. And I think that's the key, is that I think that there is the healthy fear actually helps us to do something healthy. Like, it helps us, it's beneficial.
You can make wise decisions.
Right. But when we are paralyzed, just like that word, paralyzed by unhealthy fear, that is when fear becomes our enemy. And that is when fear has taken over. When we are paralyzed from doing the will of God, when we are paralyzed from doing what we know is right. You know, we know that we are to be kind and loving to our neighbors, but when we have so much fear in our life that it is impossible for us to do that, we need God to deliver us from that fear.
Right. And so when we talk about those fears that kind of paralyze us, a lot of times we put it in the context of of earthly things and things that will hurt us. But really what it is that it's this insecurity. So you talk about talking to your neighbors. We get paralyzed by a fear because we're actually scared of what they think.
Yeah.
What they will think of us, how they will treat us after we say what we say, or what if they don't agree, or what if they don't respond, or what if they respond badly. And so there's an example of an unhealthy fear that's not based on what God says.
Yeah.
Not based on what God's opinion is of us, and not based on God's promises of us.
Right.
Because God's promise says in this portion, it says in Deuteronomy, it says that He'll never leave us or forsake us. And that that kind of reminds me of moments that I remember when I was younger, and even when my kids are younger, when you go into some places that you feel like, oh man, this is scary, this is safe. And all of a sudden you'll see little kids and they'll grab onto their parents. They'll be like, right, like this, and I've seen that before with little kids, because they find this comfort, and what they do is they draw close to their parent because they believe that their parent will keep them safe.
Yeah, that's right. They believe that their parent will protect them and wouldn't put them in a position where they are going to be harmed, and that whatever happens, their parents are going to step in and help them.
And as fallen as we are as people and as parents, man, we serve a God that will always be there for us, that He is not going to allow us to be destroyed. I mean, His word says that. Like, He'll find a way for us to get through our trials.
It's
that
true.
He's going to help us in every process, that He's not just going to abandon us and let us fall. I mean, He even did that with Peter in the boat, and Peter's walking on water, and Peter starts to fall. He didn't let him fall.
No, that's right. He grabbed him.
And He's not going to let you fall. And so those are the moments, that we really need to cling to God, and if you really feel like the Spirit of God is leading you in a step of faith, leading you in a moment of trusting in Him, and this is what God's asking you to do, because it takes trusting in Him, right? It takes counting on Him. It takes listening to His voice and listening to His promises over the promises of Satan, over the promises of the world, over the evil of the world. And He's saying, here, you can do this.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's so amazing just to think of God as that parent, when you see that little child cling so tightly to the parent's leg, when we're afraid, that's exactly what we're supposed to do. We're not supposed to curl up in a ball and just hide away, worrying our days away, or our nights away. Most of the time, for me, it's at night. But rather, we are to cling confidently onto our Savior. And we are to realize that He will take care of us and He will protect us.
And He is with us, right?
Yes.
So it's knowing, it's like whatever situation you go into, even if fear starts to strike you, you can grab onto Him.
For sure.
And He will bring you that security that you need. But you have to grab onto Him. You have to cling to Him, right? And so that's where this verse, that's what it says, and this is the verse we've talked about for the last 3 weeks. Be strong and courageous. Do not be afraid or terrified because of them. For the Lord goes with you, and he'll never leave you or forsake you. So, I mean, that's really helping us to understand, how do we deal with fear? How can we be strong? How can we be courageous? And it's trusting in God. It's trusting in his ways. It's trusting that he's going to be there every step of the way.
Yeah, and I think, there are other ways that we can dispel fear. I think sometimes talking about our fear, whether it's through journaling or even with someone else, we can know then that, hey, maybe this doesn't sound like it's not measuring up. Memorizing scripture, listening to worship music to get your mind focused on Christ instead of on our fears. Being in communion with one another, fellowshipping with one another, not isolating ourselves. Yeah. These are all ways that we can counteract the fear that can run over us.
Absolutely. So it's been great being together with you for these 3 weeks, and we've got a bit of an announcement just after this to let you know what's happening this Sunday. But it's been awesome to be able to kind of share in this moment in our hallway.
Yes.
With you. So thanks for coming to our hallway.
Yes. And
we're going to share just an announcement in just a second.
Thanks. Hello, everyone. We're back, and we just have this quick little announcement. Thank you for continuing to watch.
Right.
So March the 7th, as most of you know, hopefully by now, is that March the 7th is our last Sunday here at Bradford Community Church. And so due to the current state that the Simcoe County Health Unit has put us under, we are in the gray lockdown zone, which means we cannot meet this Sunday, March the 7th, in person.
Right. So we are still going to be streaming online, Facebook and YouTube at 9:30 at our regular time. And so we'll have a service, and we also have a guest who's coming, Pastor Lori Gibbons from the Western Ontario District. He's the district superintendent. Just to pray and send us off and just give us a little bit of insight on what's coming next for the church. Yes. And so that'll be good. So please tune in so that you can hear that part as well.
Yeah, and that will really help with any, or hopefully most of your confusion if there is any. And so that will just give some direction and leadership. So that's 9:30 on Sunday at on our YouTube and Facebook channel.
Right. So because of the gray zone lockdown, we can't get together, and if you haven't really had a chance, like we had last week, a chance to see you in person, but if you haven't had a chance to say goodbye, and we want to make sure that you have that and that we have that, and so we're going to do what's a drive-by kind of farewell. So now, in order for this to work out, you have to stay in your cars and then drive up to the church under the under the carport, and you can greet us there, and we can see you and say goodbye and bless you and bless your car or whatever, and that will be the way that we can do it, just to kind of give the opportunity to say goodbye.
Right. So that's going to be from 1 o'clock until 2:30.
1 o'clock till 2:30
on Sunday, March the 7th. It'll give everyone time to have their lunch, everyone time to recover from the service, and
she's talking about me.
Yeah, have a little rest. And we'll be able to see you. We understand if you can't come, and don't feel pressure to do that, but we would love to see you if you can.
Absolutely. So 1 o'clock, from 1 o'clock to 2:30, we will be there, and apparently it's going to be a bit warmer outside, so that'll be good.
Yes.
And we'll be able to greet you and say goodbye. And so just one last thing, when you're driving through the carport, don't drive too fast, because we don't want to be run over. Right? Like, so
we trust your driving.
We trust your driving. It's just be like,
feel free, though. You can drive. Stop under the carport. Once you've said your goodbye, then you're able to go around. It'll be like the loop.
It'll be a loop.
Yes. Okay. Well, I think this is enough. If you have more questions, you can always contact me, and I would be happy to give some other direction if need be.
Yep, so we'll see you on Sunday online, and then hopefully in person in your cars.
Yeah, and feel free to spread the news to those who you think may want to know. Take care. Thank you. Have a good night.
Bye-bye.